This is super exciting. I'm like so beyond excited for this.
Well, I mean, the amazing thing is it's actually, if you think about it from the context of this is a phone that's not Android or iOS,
Yeah.
and we're at the start of this really entire revolution of like, hey, a phone that you can actually control.
Right.
Then we're in a really good state. Yeah.
When you guys did the birch or the batch thing, and it said unfinished switch caps, I knew what that meant.
Yeah.
I like looked up the terms that people were like freaking out about online.
Oh, okay.
And well, I didn't know what the unfinished switch cap meant, but I knew what like loose fit meant and everything.
Yeah, sure. When I was talking about loose tolerance and things like that, right, in the Aspen batch, these are the things I'm referring to, right? That you can end up pushing here, and you can like here inside, that, but there's like these are minor things, but tolerance is important. Yeah. But even where we're at now, it's a solid phone. Right?
Absolutely.
And it's only gonna get better.
Right.
So the other example is inside of the hardware kill switches that you'll see as you're sliding it back and forth, then the black on the inside will rub off to the raw aluminum. Right?
Okay.
But those are things that they matter. But in the big picture of things, what we've accomplished, they're really minor. And so, and that also goes for all the optimizations and other types of things that are coming, right? And setting expectation around, like, listen, if you're thinking that this is going to be a phone that's going to be Android killer day one, then we need to level set. This is a bigger movement. So in this case, we actually ended up getting the metal switch caps in this Aspen version, and so it looks really good, but it's not yet to our standards, right?
I'm like seriously impressed with the weight, the build quality here. I mean, like, I am like, wow. I'm at a loss for words. This is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Yeah. So what you have is basically a screen that's full size, right? 5.7-inch screen that goes full size, and you do have a speaker hole and front-facing camera, ambient light, right? So all the things you would come to expect in really current smartphone hardware, and then it's anodized aluminum around the frame, so that's milled aluminum. And then the switch caps are also aluminum. The back case is molded plastic. And then when we actually do a teardown later, then you'll see that the inside guts of it as well.
Awesome.
And then it has rear face or rear camera and also rear flash. Type-C charging, speakers on the bottom.
Cool. So are the cameras active yet?
No.
Okay.
No. And that was also originally a campaign that promised that we worked to make was like, hey, we're going to ship with cameras. They will come. All the hardware's there. It's going to then just enable the software. And then, of course, inevitably, the next thing someone's going to say is, well, I want to have this cool feature that gives me where I can, de-red eye somebody, right?
Portrait mode.
Yeah, whatever it's going to be. So, all those things are coming. So the important part about this entire journey is that we're starting off of a really solid foundation, and then we end up taking this movement more and more with software. So every time there is something, and this is I think like a common misconception, is that the amount of stuff that you can do in software to optimize current hardware, right? It's a brand new CPU, right? And it's astounding the amount of things, right? So right now, when we have like RAM running on a full sprint, then we have it where we can actually clock that down, where it doesn't impact your usability, but it actually saves an awful lot on battery life, as an example.
Right. When you hit this power button on the side, does it go into like a low power state yet?
No.
But
it will. Oh yeah, and we're talking about, this is the amazing thing. You're asking this today. In like 4 days from now, it'll be like, oh yeah, that works, right? And then and so currently you can push the power button and drop it to a power off state, right? And then you can power it back on. But the dimming and brightness, right, is all proximity sensor based, and then ambient light sensor. All that hardware is enabled. And the software is enabled, the drivers we know all work. What we have to do is then enable that in the actual shell itself to then dim upon ambient light sensor. So as another example, like, because you're into gaming, right, is TuxCart works currently, and then what we have is, but like the actual ability to drive via gyroscope. The hardware all supports it, but the actual driver to then have it where that can control the game is coming, right?
Okay.
So those are some examples of where by starting off on a really cool and a really solid foundation, and knowing that, you know, more and more of these devices are coming out and there's more and more interest in it, then we actually get to this point of where it's just momentum and time, right? And we have a huge amount of momentum, so now it's the amount of time before we actually have all the things that people are after. Right? Yeah. So this is now, you can showcase, because these are larger icons, the hardware kill switches. Right. Okay. So if you want to turn that to the side or showcase whatever you'd like, the top one is cellular baseband.
So switch it up.
Yep, switch it up, and then it will toggle off that. And it actually, so in that case, what it does is it actually severs a circuit. So then so in this case, it actually alerted you that, hey, the SIM card, it's gone. Yeah. Right. Where to go? That's actually at the hardware level. The second switch is Wi-Fi Bluetooth. As soon as you toggle that, it's Wi-Fi. There isn't a Wi-Fi hardware, right? So Wi-Fi Bluetooth hardware is gone. Yeah. And then the last switch, which of course you're not going to be able to see, is camera, microphone. Right. And then if you toggle them back down, then that would be back in the on state for Aspen. Then it will re-poll and reestablish those connections again. So it's not as though you don't have to do a reboot in order, but you're actually literally severing the circuit of these hardware devices and then pulling them back safely.
That's so cool. So is there any like concern with like the SIM card? Like you can't damage your SIM card by switching off the power to...
No, you would normally, if you're talking about, we designed the entire electrical engineering process, right? To make sure that it was safe. Okay. Right. So if you were to go just hack something together, you can certainly cause a lot of damage to hardware. Okay. So this is done properly.
Okay. So the Librem 5 is kind of an achievement all on its own. But like, what's one piece of software that you're really proud of?
I think LibHandy is actually really underrated on how amazing that is, and the reason is because it's actually the right path to take to where we can you can take existing code and change classes to then have it work in a phone. So you can imagine, it's rather than saying, hey, everybody go, let's say in the case of like the web, go redesign all your websites so that it's, you have a mobile version and you have a desktop version, right? And that was the case back in, early days of the web. And then they, finally, after a long period of time, there were classes created, or libraries created, that would allow you to have a responsive, as they called it, design, right? So you could have the mobile and desktop version within the same code base. And so we just cut all that history out and leaped ahead to where we can have it where you can take existing code, change the classes using a library, LibHandy, and then make it run on the Librem 5. What that means is that a number of applications we're going to be able to have will increase rapidly, right? And that's how we've been able to get to the support that we have now.
That's awesome. So how, when it comes to LibHandy, if you have a GTK app, how simple is it to implement LibHandy and get it optimized?
So if it's GTK 3, then it's actually pretty simple. It's just changing a few classes to use the classes that are in LibHandy instead of the classes that are native. And so it's actually very, very simple. We like in the case of GNOME software, while it was supported by us, so we have the in-house expertise to be able to do that, that took just a matter of days to get to the initial state of where things are at. So progressive web apps are going to be a huge bridge. If you think about it, as native applications are going to be key in what we're driving for. And that basically means pixel perfect, right? And optimized for the hardware. And then you can move to saying, well, that application is not yet available, but a web app would work. You can open up a browser or create a progressive web app. And then the next step would be, okay, you could emulate Android, potentially, right, if you needed to have some type of application that wasn't yet supported. Or we can get to this last stage, which is basically what I'm calling sort of Android as a service, which would be where you can VNC in and pull in some remote Android session that doesn't even have to be owned by you, right? You could literally rent it for a moment and then pull in that app to be able to do something full screen. So that's sort of the columns that you'd see of applications. And so that way we can have it where the initial usage can really be much greater than, let's say, just like the hardcore core audience that we have of software developers, free software enthusiasts, privacy concerned people, security experts, right? And we can actually start moving more and more into large enterprise, or having it where kids are starting to use the device because they recognize that digital rights is actually the largest movement that they're going to be facing, right?
Yeah.
When we start from a foundation of always protecting you, then that means you have to literally opt in to ever be exploited or have your location information shared with a certain application, right?
Right.
And so then we start off where you're completely protected, and then you are choosing to do things you'd like to do, as opposed to the opposite, which is how the entire industry is.
Yeah, that's awesome. The opting in instead of opting out, it makes so much sense. So,
and you can skip that if you'd like, yeah. But that is where you can set up initial accounts. This is where Librem 1 is going to come into play.
Yeah.
So the overall big picture, right, of doing hardware, the operating system, all the software, and also services is then we can have ethical services that are attached, so you can end up signing up for them. But of course, these are standard-based services, so you can sign up for Nextcloud, IMAP. You can end up getting a Matrix account, XMPP, whatever you like. But having Librem 1 just be default as well means then somebody can just end up signing up, and we can really solve the main problem of having people just protected online, which is convenience. Right? We need to make convenient products so you can just hand it to somebody and you're like, hey, here you go, I can start chatting with you.
Yeah,
right?
and they don't have to think about it.
Exactly.
Right, because that's like that's a huge problem is like when people don't have to think about it, they don't.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's like if like I always say on my videos, like privacy comes down to the lowest common denominator. And so like if you're handing people Android phones, everyone's being spied on, including you when you're using one of these devices to talk to them. So it's like, that's why I'm so excited about this, is because you're starting from that.
That's right, and it's a giant movement. I mean, and it's it's going to take us a long time. But what we have is this is the largest step that anybody can take to get us there, which is actually having hardware we can have in someone's hands that can actually solve that problem. And the youth fully understand that like they're like, that is like the business model of like grandpa age, right? And so surveillance capitalism isn't cool. Right? And so what we have to do is actually make it where we are protecting people by default. And so this is, and what's almost humorous to me is that's how society works in the physical world, right? So what we need, if we can just take what's in the physical world and apply it to the online world, then people will be happy.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we formed as a social purpose company, is to say, we get it, right? We understand what the problem is. We also get that it's actually about convenience, right? So we need to make it where there is the tool that your youngest brother would just say, oh, cool. Yeah, actually, folks, just jump on Librem 1, right? Yeah. Because now we can all chat. And here's the difference is it's never going to exploit us. It's never going to know anything about what we're doing or care to ever know. Right. And it also is actually structured in a way that it can't ever know. Yeah. Right. So then that means at that point, then it is the most secure form, right? I mean, right now, when we're chatting via Librem chat earlier, right? It's established that there's no tracking, there's no surveillance capitalism going on, there's nothing, and that's a free service, right? Yeah. Now, how's that a free service? Is because we bundle it across the other services that are paid, right? VPN is clearly a service people are going to pay for. In the future, cloud storage. So you can see that what we're doing is we're tackling all of the Silicon Valley businesses and saying there's a different way to do that. And the different way to do it is actually to respect people's digital rights. Yeah. And it comes from, you have to have that core belief to actually be able to influence that change, because we're challenging across business models, funding models, hardware manufacturing processes, chipset selection, right? Software stack, like the whole thing, right? You can't see an area that doesn't come to that foundational issue of saying, hey, we need to be socially conscious about digital civil rights. I couldn't agree more.
So I actually run a Nextcloud server at my house. Okay. Like I have I'm pointing a domain at it because this is built on GNOME. Yeah. You can just integrate it and it works.
Yeah, your file, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, your files would just work. Yeah. This is going to be the mind-blowing part, where a lot of the questions that come out is that the answer is like, yes, of course that's possible. Now, it has to be implemented to make it easy, right? But the answer is yes, you can remote mount a drive from another place. Like you can do a software update from the terminal. Yes, you could actually blow away your home directory if you want to, right? Right. All the things you can do in the GNU Linux world on your laptop, you have the ability to do on a phone now. And so that does include, plugging in, later on when we enable the hardware or through the drivers, to have it where you plug into a screen, and then you can have Bluetooth keyboard, right? All of those things are coming, right? Yeah. And so we have this unbelievably solid foundation to be able to build on.
Right. That's one of the things I'm super excited about, is like being able to have this kind of device be like the center of, you know, my digital life.
Yeah.
And being able to, like, you know, if I wanted to code, I could like SSH FS into like my server and mount you know, my web directories and edit code and do whatever.
You have complete freedom, which is the reason that all these questions are coming out is because the phones of the past have been so handcuffed that you can't just do something simple like that.
Right.
And so now you have complete freedom, and you're also protected from the, you know, foundation up. So those are all really strong reasons why we appreciate all the support of the current backers, right? And anybody else who's going to be buying the phone, understanding that, hey, this is actually a bigger movement we're starting that will actually get us to where you have complete freedom and a litany of applications. So in your case, when you're talking about remotely mounting Nextcloud, and then you can have just, you know, the file browser, and you can actually go find everything you want, and you can have the same things you'd have on your laptop, where you're talking about, you know, calendaring or viewing your photos or videos. That all can be done from the phone the same way you can do it from a laptop or desktop right now.
That's so cool. So Nautilus isn't here yet.
It's not, but we know that it works.
Okay.
And actually, there's a couple things you could end up doing. I'm trying to remember which. Like in the text editor, if you open up Open, you'll see that it actually launches to like a browser that you can end up seeing the different files that you have in the file system. So it's similar, right, to what Nautilus actually ends up becoming, right? So you can see, you can browse to, you know, your home directory and see, right? There's all of the things in there, right?
Beautiful. Dude.
So that's sort of so files will be coming, right? And then you'll be able to browse your whole file system, mount. You can end up inserting a Type-C USB storage, mount it, have it there. You could end up popping out the SIM card, putting in an SD card, right, if you'd like. All of those things are just simply available to you, right, because you have complete control and ownership of the phone. This is the first phone that you'll actually be able to own.
Right.
We're talking about literally in the Aspen batch. It is handcrafted, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of like tender loving care that goes into how best to assemble it, and then we're learning from all of that, right? Yeah. So as one example is the hardware kill switches. I mentioned that you're going to switch the opposite direction because we want them to be like a light switch. It's kind of more standardized. Right. And then we're also going to be doing spring-loaded antenna placement as opposed to attached to the inside case, which it is now. And so and then we're also going to have an improved heat pipe, as an example. And so there's a lot of things that through the handcrafted process, we learn, we get it in the hands of really, the people who are influential and early backers, and then we move to the next batch. That's going to be an ever increasing number until we can get to mass production. And we're talking about, we're talking about 50,000 units before the end of Q1. Right? I mean, it's going to be, there's an awful lot of interest. And this is all, previously, this is interest from people who backed us 2 years ago, right? Yeah. And then it's an ever-growing number because people recognize that this is such a needed thing.
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely. So Animatch. So I know a bunch of people on Twitter asked me about games.
Yeah, so games are going to be an ever-improving area. So right now, this is a game that runs in full screen, and then you can also, and decent animations, right? And a lot of this is going to be software to more and more optimize against the GPU, right? So this is kind of the rudimentary stage that I consider where we're at with the GPU and graphics. You drag. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay. So it is there's a little, it's kind of a slideshow, but that's okay. You're working on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is, to me, is that there's like the hardware can support it for sure. Yeah. Right, and it's just about software optimization, right? Right.
So
the frame rate's no problem, right? Yeah. Screen resolution's no problem. It really is, and this will be one of these funny things that I know. Like if you're showing this video, then it'll be like, oh, let's see the demo in like a week, right? And like, oh wow, it's right. So this is where a lot of people think is a black box. Optimization is like some mystery thing that doesn't happen, or we've already maxed out the limitations of the hardware. Right. We're only at the infancy stage of what this hardware can actually do. Yeah. And so, and we're doing kernel mods right now to improve battery life, to improve screen refresh, to improve graphics, right? So we can end up doing a lot more GPU, and it's going to be really kind of start blowing people's minds the more and more we get to invest in that.
One thing that I didn't even think about until you said that. It's like, this is a 720p screen.
Yeah.
You can't, like, if I didn't know that, I would think that it was something higher than that.
For sure.
Like, you can't even tell.
This is where you basically get into what I consider like a point of diminishing returns. The 720 screen is diminishing returns. Anything in higher packed pixels, it's not visible to the eye. And so what happens is if we did choose that, well, we get this awesome checkbox of, yeah, we have a massive amount of pixels, but what you lose is battery life and performance.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're like, well, let's actually choose the pragmatic and logical approach, which is you can't visibly tell the difference, and so let's choose the one that's the best visible quality that gets us really long battery life and better optimization.
Yeah.
And we're obviously still improving those as well, but yeah, it's a really solid screen.
Absolutely. I mean, I am like blown away by this screen, honestly. You support Vulkan yet, or?
Oh wow, I don't know that.
You don't know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now it's OpenGL.
I think OpenGL. Yes,
okay.
I think that's right. But I'm not sure. I know that we're working with some SDL. And Mesa, but boy, it's changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
And it also is on staff, right? We have a game developer, right? On staff, we're writing the kernel mods, right? So it's from everything. I think it's probably an important point to make is that everything from the electrical engineering, which means schematics, right?
Yeah.
All the way through to industrial design, mechanical design, bootloader, kernel, OS, libhandy, Phosh, all in-house, right? And then we get to the application development, right? And then we add all the other things such as like support and, right? All of those things are done in-house. We're very vertically integrated and vertically supported.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's why, Apple can get like battery life that's like twice as good as Android or whatever it's substantially better than Android because they control everything. They pick the battery, they pick the screen resolution, they pick everything, and they control the software as well.
And so it's not just that. There's one additional piece, and I think that and this is something that relates to what we're doing is then we can develop and put our effort right toward a specific hardware path. So when we're talking about IMX8M, right? To say let's work on that and make sure that is as optimized as possible rather than trying to support every type of CPU out there. And right now, that's how we have to get there, right? We have to be able to support something that we can invest all the time and effort to get you a finished product. Then it can expand, right? But you can't just say you're going to boil the ocean. Right. You need to target something. And this allows us to have a vertically integrated, very focused delivery of what we're doing. And then that means that, like every week, right, you'll be able to have a software update that's going to pick up performance improvements on GPU, CPU, memory, battery life, more applications, and and then also additionally solve some bugs that are going to come along the line. Nice. So we're investing heavily in that whole process. But then the other thing that's really exciting is the community support. Yeah. So this is where we're adding more and more applications that are coming in from the community, right? And then we know it's simply a game of the more devices we get out, right? The more momentum we have, and given enough amount of time, our application suite is going to continue to increase. And there's some other really cool stuff that are going to be like being able to actually remote in to your Android phone, right? We actually have tested all of that right now, right? Okay. So you can actually VNC in to your Android phone and run it on a Librem 5. So in case of when you really require something that's not yet in the free software stack, then you can still be able to do that. That's sort of the solving the Instagram problem, right? Of being able to upload something to Instagram. Because you can clearly view within the browser on a lot of proprietary services. You can even book an Uber or a Lyft, right? Or any other ride-sharing application from the browser on Librem 5, but to have the native application, we want to run it in isolation, right? So you are fully protected and your privacy is intact. Right. So there's a lot of really amazing stuff that's going to be coming, and we're really kind of, it's like, I feel like delivering on the Librem 5 is like the starting gun of the marathon, right? Yeah. It's like, we did all the training and we spent in a massive amount of time, right? And we're now at this starting phase, and it's beyond exciting.
Yeah, Rocky training montage.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.